I got some hands-on with Guardians of the Galaxy. Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler go head-to-head in Copshop. And I've got some thoughts on what Nintendo needs to do with its retro releases on the Switch. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown, everybody. My name is Victor Lucas. I'm so glad that you have found the Electric Playground. Today's episode is brought to you by Pinnacle, which is back and headed to the Vancouver Convention Center. It's hosted by the Gaming Stadium, along with partners Even Matchup Gaming, Gallant Gaming, and Vancouver Street Battle. And they're bringing you 3 days of non-stop gaming action. Pinnacle runs Friday, October 8th to Sunday, October 10th, and it's going to feature a $30,000 prize pool around some of the best in competitive gaming like Smash Bros. Ultimate, Street Fighter, and Guilty Gear. You can register today to compete or spectate at tgs.gg. And the show's also got a dedication for Modtro Reapers, who said, "I lost my mind on so many things from the Nintendo Direct. Bayonetta 3 was the one I couldn't stop clapping." Side note about Bayonetta 3 from seeing the gameplay, I am wondering if there is a chance that Platinum Games took some game concepts from the canceled game Scalebound and brought them over to Bayonetta 3? That's a great question, Modtro Reapers. That's some pretty profound insight you've got going there. I think everybody that loves Platinum was really disappointed that we never got Scalebound, but maybe we're going to get a bit of Scalebound in Bayonetta 3. All I know is I freaking love that studio, and I can't wait to play the new game. I also would love to hear that Platinum Games and Nintendo are working on Astral Chain 2. All right, let's get started and talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. The teams over at Square Enix and Eidos Montreal gave me some hands-on time with Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was pretty damn cool to get into the boots of Star-Lord Peter Quill, but also to work with my team, Groot and Rocket and Drax and Gamora, and take on a bunch of brainwashed Nova Corps baddies. It takes place about 4 hours into the campaign of the game, so I already had some skills unlocked, and it was really fun to explore and augment and to play with the different skills and abilities that each of the characters has. It's still a team game. It's a single-player experience where you're in control of Star-Lord, but it is a team game in that you need all of the different characters to deal with all of the enemies that are swarming at you. You can't just do this run-and-gun solo style and have the AI just sort of willy-nilly deal with everything. You really have to take leadership and take control, but you're also, in the story bits and all the preamble before you get into the combat, you're bickering and you're making allegiances and pissing off some of the other members in the group. Just like you would see in the movies or reading the comic books, there is this great personality and this kind of contrast of personalities in Guardians of the Galaxy, which feels authentic and feels true and very much on brand. So does the high energy music that's in there. The one thing that I kind of recognize about this game is that it's like a super fleshed out version of something we might have played back on the PlayStation 2 era, where you would have a huge team with you, but you would only ever control one character, but you'd still have some commands that you could give to the other characters. But now everything's in super pristine high fidelity. There is a lot of UI information on screen, and sometimes that can get a little bit overwhelming, particularly when you're swarmed by all of the enemies. In this case, I was combating a bunch of mind-controlled Nova Corps characters that came in all different styles and sizes with different abilities. I was getting electrocuted and grenaded, and I was getting blasted all over the place. But as I started to really hone in my skills as a leader, as someone that could command all of the different abilities of the different characters, it really started to come together well, and it was really, really fun. I haven't played enough of it to review it, obviously, but I enjoyed this. I also enjoyed, thinking in my mind how different it was from playing the Avengers experience, because in that game you're really having to choose a character and stay with that one character, even though you've got all of your teammates all around you. In this one, it did feel like I was controlling a team, which was really cool. I can't wait to get the whole thing into my hands, and I'll definitely come back and have a review for you. But so far, Guardians of the Galaxy gets a thumbs up from me. Now I want to switch over into the movie world and talk about Copshop. I've been a big fan of Joe Carnahan ever since the first film I saw from him called Narc way back in the day, and he is a director that excels at crafting cool, crackling action pictures. He did a great job with the A-Team reimagination that happened a few years ago. If you haven't seen the A-Team movie that Bradley Cooper stars in, do yourself a favor and do that. It's a very fun film. But he also directed The Gray with Liam Neeson, which I absolutely loved. He's just really good. He's been writing and producing and directing. He was trying to get the Daredevil rights to do a Daredevil movie. And so anytime he's involved with the film, I'm always curious. He's got some pretty cool actors in this one as well. Gerard Butler, who I think many of us have really enjoyed since 300, and he's done lots of other cool things along the way. Frank Grillo, who has carved out a nice niche for himself in the MCU, but in other action pictures as well. Two magnetic performers on screen, and in this case, they go head-to-head, and that's compelling. The whole story is about Frank Grillo being on the run from the mob. He is a guy that has worked the books and done a lot of fast talking, and it's all catching up to him. And Gerard Butler is one of the people that's sent to go and find him. But Frank Grillo gets himself arrested in this tiny little town's Copshop, and gets put into jail. And one of the police officers on duty is played by Alexis Louder, who is absolutely incredible. She was also in the Tomorrow War. She's going to be in a lot of things from here on out. People are going to talk about this person and her performance, and they're going to be casting her in a lot of stuff because she is amazing in this movie. She just evokes a really tremendous physicality and an assuredness, and she is incredibly competent and powerful in every scene that she's in, whether she's getting into a verbal confrontation with somebody or a physical one. Incredible work. And Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler have lots of really interesting bits to chew on as well. You can see the ferocity and the animosity that they feel for each other, but you can also see the conniving, kind of snaky kind of mentality of Frank Grillo, which was an interesting side of him as an actor that I hadn't seen before. Whether he's in The Purge or he's playing Crossbones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you normally don't see him be so conniving, He's usually the guy in charge, the badass in charge. And there's a little bit of that here, but really Gerard Butler is the guy that's in charge. He is menacing, quiet, and cool, and then he strikes and attacks, and he's scary as hell. And he plays that quite well. He physically towers over some of the other actors on screen, so it was really fun to watch his work here. Now, Joe Carnahan had to do some interesting things here, much like John Carpenter had to do with Assault on Precinct 13 way back in the day. He's got to keep all of the action in this movie confined to a relatively small space. We're in the jail cells of the police station, we're in the armory, we're at the desks. We don't really leave the room. There are a couple of little bits that kind of set up everything, but primarily most of the film takes place within this police station. But still, there's some great gunfire sequences, a lot of cool stunt work, and lots of kinetic moments that you're captivated by in this story. But a huge chunk of it is character work. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of back and forth between the characters, but there's also a really dedicated effort to kind of slow things down and examine who these people are in the frame. And there's generally some solid, meaty, good stuff in there to be entertained by. And then everything gets a little bit more amplified and a little bit more hysterical when Toby Huss comes in playing a crazed, psychotic hitman named Anthony Lamb. And he doesn't hesitate to take out cops. Just, he's got an itchy trigger finger. So a lot of people fall at that moment. And that's when it feels like Joe Carnahan kind of sort of turns the dial up to 11, and things get a little bit more insane after that. I was entertained by this movie. It's not the most ambitious thriller I've ever seen. It's not the best stuff that I've seen from Frank Grillo or from Gerard Butler. But you know what? I was really impressed by the punch of the entertainment value, but mostly by my appreciation for Alexis Louder. Like, she just steals the show. Phenomenal. I do think it's worth watching, and I do think you're going to be thinking about it. I think it's got that kind of like cult. It's going to live in that cult's hit kind of place for a while. People are going to be asking each other, have you seen Copshop? It's much better than you think it is. It's pretty damn solid. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. All right, let's talk about that Nintendo Direct that happened last week. That was really fun to live stream with you guys. Thank you for joining me on that. Lots of awesome reveals. I've been playing the Castlevania Advance Collection over the weekend. I still haven't jumped into ActRaiser Renaissance, but I can't wait to play that game. I'll stream some of that soon. And there were lots of other cool reveals. Bayonetta 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. We saw that there's going to be some great DLC coming for Monster Hunter Rise. We saw a little bit more on Splatoon 3. We saw that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is headed to the Switch. But one of the biggest reveals of the show was definitely that the Nintendo 64 and the SEGA Genesis are going to be coming to Nintendo Switch Online as part of a new expansion pass for the subscription to the service. We don't know what the price is going to be. We know that the games are going to be hitting the service in October, but you're going to have to pay a bit more if you're already a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online. So you're going to get NES, SNES, N64, and SEGA Genesis games if you commit to the whole full meal deal. It's exciting for a number of reasons. It's going to be great to play the old N64 stuff and the Genesis stuff, which is, so exciting to see those beautiful old pixelated games on Nintendo Switch screens. All of that is very cool, and I have been a fan of what Nintendo has done with NES and SNES Online, although we haven't had the widest breadth of experiences in those respective collections. And some of the choices have been a little bit weird. We've gotten some kind of more obscure titles, and it would be great to get more titles like things that we always talk about, like Batman Returns or something for SNES, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. Lots of classic games. We all have those lists. Many of us, I think, are looking forward to maybe there being some of the old classic wrestling games on N64 or GoldenEye, which we don't know about. In terms of the Genesis as well, let's hope that there's going to be a bunch of licensed titles that make sense. Maybe we're going to get Ghostbusters or some classic EA Sports titles on there or something. Road Rash would be great. But what I really came away with as I was thinking about these classic games and these classic consoles that they're going to be adding to the list, it will be awesome to see how this evolves, and maybe this is going to be Nintendo's way of leaning into preservation and giving us other machines, maybe TurboGrafx and Neo Geo. They did it before with the eShop, which would be awesome. But I think there needs to be way more clarity than there has been. It's been a bit of a crapshoot in terms of games coming to the service that we've seen on SNES and NES. And so every once in a while, we might get a little drip feed of different titles that come out, and we might get 2 or 3 at a time, and then a month or 2 may go by, and then another couple of games are going to hit the service, but they're not the biggest ones. It feels like the biggest NES and biggest SNES games were released when the service launched, the Zeldas and the Star Foxes and the Mario type experiences. And it looks like we're getting a little bit of that again with N64 and with the Genesis as well. And I think what we need to see is a release calendar. I think that not only do subscribers need to know what's coming to N64 and Genesis, but we also need to see what's going to be coming to the Super Nintendo and the NES as well over the next several months. These releases should be treated just like a traditional game release. On this date, you're going to be getting this, and on this date, you're going to be getting that. And then people are going to have a much better dollar to value equation on this. And the other thing, and I got some good feedback on this, is that even though we've gotten lots of, I think, pretty good value for Nintendo Switch Online right now, it doesn't feel like the most robust platform. It's not like Nintendo is being discussed as the best way to play games online right now. We still don't have voice chat over the service. You have to do it over a cell phone, for crying out loud. Nintendo could have gone the extra mile and said, we're adding N64 and Genesis to your existing online subscription, and I think people would have been over the moon. Now I think that there's a lot of hesitation around this and questions around this, and I think it's in Nintendo's best interests to be very clear about what is going to be provided on a regular, consistent basis for Genesis, for Nintendo 64, and also for Super Nintendo and NES, because there's tons of games they haven't released on those platforms, and existing subscribers would like to see that new games are going to be added to each of the different machines. I do think it's wonderful that we as players are going to be able to easily and quickly access emulated versions of these classic pieces of software. And I think it's commendable that Nintendo has kept the price relatively low on their service, and hopefully we're not paying more than $10 more for the expansion pack to get access to N64 and Genesis. But yes, I do think they need to be really clear about pricing and scheduling. And if they do that, I'll be happy as heck. And the next big announcement, and hopefully we don't have to wait a whole other year for it, is when they're going to announce the Game Boy stuff hitting Nintendo Switch, because that would be awesome. I've been having a blast playing Castlevania Advance Collection, and it just is so clear that Game Boy Advance games totally should be on the Nintendo Switch. But you know what? I want to hear from you guys. Are you happy with what Nintendo has showed off so far for the N64 and the SEGA Genesis? Do you think it's a great addition to Nintendo Switch Online, or were you a bit bummed out that they're going to ask for extra money to have access to those consoles? And if you're okay with it, what do you want to spend? What's the most that Nintendo should charge for all that? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I've got one last thing to tell you guys about. Earlier today, I caught up with Goody Grace, who is a singer-songwriter who has been killing it over the last several years. He's from Selkirk, Manitoba, and he's got a new EP and a tour that he wanted to tell us about. One of your new singles that's out there is Hold Me in the Moonlight. I texted you when I heard it. I think it's a terrific song. It's it's got a real resonance to it. What was the inspiration for that song?
What I listen to the most and have always is I'm a really, really big fan of kind of like 80s post-punk stuff. Like the Smiths and the Cure, and kind of gothic stuff like Bauhaus and Sisters of Mercy, and just like Joy Division and a lot of stuff like that. And it's really something I've spent my whole life listening to and studying that I never really tapped into creatively. That is how this song and this EP got started. Is in amongst making the album, I had a couple ideas started that were just me. Hold Me in the Moonlight's 100% me. That's not a co-writer, co-production or anything. That literally front to back is just in my laptop.
Holy crap, really? That's incredible. It's got such a great sound, man. The reverb on it, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful piece of music.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that is like the most DIY. Those drums aren't even real. That's like programmed the same way I would program like a hip hop beat. And the guitars are real and everything. But yeah, that was made. I started it in LA just on my laptop, and I finished it in when I was back home. But yeah, that was, consciously me trying to kind of, I feel like a lot of my music's been quite slow in the past, and I, not that that's a bad thing, but I wanted to, especially with touring coming back, I really sat down and was like, I want to make some upbeat, fun stuff that kind of makes me feel how the Smiths make me feel.
Well, I know that you're a huge gamer, and that's how we connected. You've been watching EP for a long time, which I appreciate very much. Telling all the other rock stars about Electric Playground. I love that.
Of course.
You're still gaming? What are you playing these days?
I kind of go off and on. I mean, when I was a little kid, I gamed so much. And, me and my Uncle Mark watched the show every day, and we always played. And the last game I fully completed that I absolutely loved was the Resident Evil Village.
That was super cool.
I grew up on Resident Evil, so it's so always great to see it.
Well, wait, how old were you on did your uncle give you Resident Evil when you were too young? Did it twist you?
Probably. I was probably first in Raccoon City when I was like 6 years old or something.
Oh no. Man.
I mean, I would watch him play it. I remember the first game in the mansion stuff, being so scared of it.
It was good to catch up with Goody. He's got a great sound, and it's a lot of fun to watch him mature and develop as an artist out there, doing all kinds of cool things. I'm going to post our whole conversation to Vic's Basement, so make sure you listen to that. And make sure you search out Goody on all the socials and wherever you listen to music, and on YouTube. He's got lots of stuff to dig into. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with a fresh one for you. In the meantime, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified. Hit that thumbs up if you like the content. You can head over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EPN, and follow us over there. I stream all the time. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.